Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Books and Bytes. Today, we're diving deep into Wolfram von Eschenbach's epic poem, Parzival.
Parzival.
Yeah,
It's a good one.
it's a great one. So get ready for a journey through medieval chivalry,
Yeah.
quests for the Holy Grail, and some surprising twists and turns you might not expect.
Yeah, you know what's fascinating about Parzival is it's not just a thrilling adventure story. It really grapples with these profound questions
Yeah.
about faith, love, and the true meaning of knighthood. And these are themes that, still resonate with us centuries later.
Right, imagine yourself as a knight in shining armor,
Hmm.
facing trials and temptations,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what it truly means to be a good person. That's the essence of Parzival's journey, and it's something we can all relate to in our own lives.
Exactly. I mean, throughout the poem, we see Parzival making mistakes, questioning everything, and ultimately transforming from this naive youth into a wise and compassionate leader. It's a story of personal growth, but it also offers us a glimpse into the complexities of medieval society with its courtly rituals, religious beliefs, and even hints of real-world historical events.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things I found so fascinating about it.
Okay.
Okay, so let's unpack this epic, starting from the very beginning. Now, the story doesn't actually start with Parzival himself,
Yeah.
but with his parents, Gamerace and Herzlide.
Mm.
So what's the significance of their tale, and how does it set the stage for Parzival's own journey?
Well, you can think of it like this. Parzival inherits a legacy of both daring and compassion from his parents. His father, Gamerace, he is this adventurous knight, always seeking glory, pushing boundaries. On the other hand, his mother, Herzlide, she embodies this quieter strength, choosing to withdraw from the world after Gamerace's death to protect her son.
So it's like Parzival is born with these two opposing forces within him, the desire for adventure and the need for connection and compassion.
Precisely. And that internal conflict becomes a driving force. Throughout his journey, he's constantly trying to balance those two sides of himself, figuring out how to be both a courageous knight and a compassionate human being.
That makes a lot of sense. And that brings us to Parzival's upbringing,
Hmm?
which is anything but typical for a future knight.
Right. Herzlide raises Parzival in seclusion, sheltering him from the world of knighthood and its dangers. This makes him naive and clueless about social customs, but it also gives him this kind of innocence and purity that's both endearing and at times frustrating.
I can imagine. It's like he doesn't know how to operate in the real world. So how does this sheltered upbringing affect Parzival when he finally ventures out into the world?
Well, imagine you've spent your whole life in a bubble, and then you're suddenly thrust into a world
Right.
of knights, ladies, and courtly rituals that you know nothing about. That's Parzival. That's his experience. He's strong and brave, but he constantly blunders through social situations, often causing unintended harm or misunderstanding.
Yeah, it sounds like a recipe for disaster. Are there any particular moments that stand out as examples of his early naivete?
Oh, absolutely. One of the most famous passages is when Parzival encounters Sigun, this grieving maiden who's mourning her dead lover. He tries to comfort her, but he does it so clumsily and insensitively that it almost makes things worse.
Oh, no.
It's both humorous and heartbreaking to see his good intentions backfire so spectacularly.
So even with the best of intentions, his lack of social awareness creates these awkward and sometimes painful situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Those early blunders are crucial to his development. They force him to confront his own ignorance and begin the process of learning what it truly means to be a knight. It's not just about fighting. It's about understanding compassion and using your strength to help others.
So he's learning through trial and error, even if those errors are sometimes pretty major.
Right. And his journey takes him to some pretty incredible places, including a besieged city where he wins the hand of this beautiful princess, Conway Moore, and the mysterious Grail Castle, a place of both wonder and suffering.
Ooh, the Grail Castle. Now, that's a pretty significant location in the story.
Right.
What makes it so special, and what happens to Parzival there?
Well, the Grail Castle is like a physical manifestation of the spiritual quest. That lies at the heart of the poem. It's a place where the sacred and the profane intersect, where knights are tested, not only for their physical strength, but also for their compassion and understanding.
It sounds like a pivotal moment in his journey. Can you tell me more about what happens when he arrives there?
Imagine this. Parzival enters the castle, and he witnesses this procession, where the Grail, this holy object, is revealed. He sees the Fisher King Enfordes, who's wounded and suffering. But, due to his lack of social awareness, Parzival fails to ask the question. That could heal the king. and lift the curse that afflicts the land.
Oh, wow. So he misses a crucial opportunity, not out of malice, but because he simply doesn't understand the situation.
Exactly. It's a tragic irony that highlights the dangers of blind obedience to social norms, Even though he's been taught to be courteous and hold his tongue, his silence has devastating consequences.
It sounds like this experience at the Grail Castle is a turning point for Parzival. Does it set him on a new path?
It does. It really does set him on this path of intense self-discovery.
So he leaves the Grail Castle with a heavy heart and a lot of questions swirling in his mind.
Exactly, and embarks on years of wandering, encountering this cast of characters who both challenge and guide him. There's the proud and enigmatic Orgelus, who tests his notions of courtly love, and the wise hermit Trevisan, who reveals the true nature of the Grail and the path to redemption.
Wow, you're really making me feel like I'm right there alongside Parzival, experiencing these encounters firsthand.
That's the power of Wolfram's storytelling, You're not just reading about these events, you're drawn into the emotional and spiritual landscape of Parzival's world.
Okay, but while Parzival is on this journey of self-discovery, there's another knight who comes into the picture. Gawain, King Arthur's nephew. So what's his role in this story? And how does he contrast with Parzival?
Well, Gawain represents a different kind of knighthood. He's everything Parzival initially isn't. Charming, skilled in courtly etiquette, a master of warfare. But he's also more concerned with appearances and social status.
So it's like he embodies the ideal of a courtly knight, while Parzival is still struggling to find his own way.
Exactly, and their paths intertwine in these fascinating ways. Gawain even has his own adventures at a magical castle called Chateau Merveille, which mirrors some of the themes we see in the Grail Castle.
So it sounds like Wolfram is deliberately setting up this comparison between these two knights, showing us these two different paths to knighthood.
Precisely. Yeah. And what's so compelling is that neither path is presented as inherently superior. Both Gawain and Parzival have their strengths and weaknesses, and they both ultimately achieve a form of success. But the nature of their victories is quite different.
So what can we learn from these contrasting paths to knighthood? How do their journeys inform Parzival's ultimate transformation?
Well, Gawain's successes are largely external. He conquers challenges through wit and skill, gaining recognition and admiration. But his inner world remains relatively unchanged. He doesn't seem to grapple with the same existential questions that torment Parzival.
So his victories are more superficial in a way.
Exactly. Well, Parzival's journey is one of profound inner transformation. He learns through his mistakes, confronting his own flaws, and ultimately embracing humility and compassion.
So it's not just about becoming a skilled warrior. It's about cultivating those inner qualities that make a truly noble knight.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's where the Grail comes in. It's not just a magical object. It represents spiritual enlightenment, a deeper understanding of oneself and one's purpose in the world.
And that's something Parzival can only achieve after years of wandering and soul-searching.
Absolutely. It's only when he returns to the Grail Castle, a changed man, that he's finally able to ask the question, heal the Fisher King, and become the Grail King himself.
It's a powerful moment of redemption, a culmination of everything he's learned on his journey.
And it speaks to the idea that true enlightenment isn't something you can just stumble upon. It requires effort, self-reflection, and a willingness to confront your own darkness.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Wolfram's storytelling is incredibly vivid and immersive. Are there any other memorable passages that come to mind?
Oh, there are so many. One that stands out is the description of Parzival learning to make a javelin from a tree branch.
Yeah,
it's a seemingly simple scene, but it speaks volumes about his connection to nature, his resourcefulness, and his potential for growth.
It's like a metaphor for his entire journey. He's starting with something raw and unformed and gradually shaping it into something powerful and purposeful.
Exactly. And it reminds us that even the greatest heroes start somewhere. They have to learn and grow and overcome obstacles to reach their full potential.
But Parzival's journey isn't just about personal growth. It's also deeply intertwined with themes of faith and love, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The poem explores different facets of love, from the passionate and tumultuous relationship between Gawain and Orgelus to the pure and unwavering love between Parzival and Conrir Moore.
So it's not just about romantic love. It's about the different ways love can manifest in our lives.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And then there's the theme of faith, which is central to the Grail legend itself. Wolfram's portrayal of faith is nuanced and complex. It's not about blind acceptance or rigid dogma. It's about seeking understanding, questioning, wrestling with doubt, and ultimately finding your own path to spiritual enlightenment.
It sounds like a very human and relatable portrayal of faith, something that resonates with people even today.
Exactly. And it's one of the reasons why Parzival has endured for so long. It speaks to these universal human experiences, the search for meaning, the challenges of love and loss, and the yearning for something that transcends the mundane.
As we've been talking about Parzival's journey, it's made me think about how much Wolfram packs into these 2 volumes. It's not just one hero's quest. It's like a tapestry woven with so many different storylines, rich symbolism and thought-provoking themes.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that makes Parzival so fascinating is its complexity. It operates on multiple levels. It invites us to explore not just the surface narrative, but also the deeper meanings hidden beneath.
Right, and you mentioned earlier how Wolfram blends these grand mythical elements with these surprisingly down-to-earth details. It's like grounding this epic tale in a world that feels both familiar and fantastical at the same time.
Exactly. Think about those vivid descriptions of Meal's clothing, even the way knights greet each other. It's all so specific and relatable. It reminds us that even these legendary heroes were still human beings with everyday concerns.
It does. It makes the world of the poem come alive. You feel like you're right there alongside Parzival, experiencing it all firsthand.
Precisely. And those details often serve a deeper purpose. Wolfram was a master of using symbolism and imagery to convey complex ideas about faith, love, and the human condition.
Speaking of symbolism, we've talked about the swan motif, but there are so many other recurring images and symbols in the poem. What stands out to you as particularly significant?
Well, one that immediately comes to mind is the color red. It's associated with both passion and violence. You often see it in descriptions of battles, tournaments, and even the Grail itself.
That's interesting. So it's not just a random color choice. It's like Wolfram is using red to highlight those moments of intense emotion and conflict that drive the narrative forward.
Exactly. And think about how red is also associated with blood, symbolizing both sacrifice and the potential for both healing and harm.
That's a powerful connection. It makes me think about how Parzival's journey is marked by both physical and emotional wounds. He endures all these trials and tribulations, but those experiences ultimately lead to growth and transformation.
Precisely. And that idea of transformation is central to Parzival. It's a story about the process of becoming, of shedding old selves and embracing new ways of being.
And we see that transformation reflected not only in Parzival, but also in other characters like Ferrifiz, his half-brother. He's such a striking visual symbol with his black and white skin, embodying those themes of duality and the merging of different worlds.
Absolutely. And the fact that Ferrifiz, despite his different background and beliefs, ultimately finds acceptance within the Grail community. It speaks to the idea that true spirituality transcends cultural boundaries. It's about the inner journey, the transformation of the heart.
So if we were to distill Wolfram's Parzival down to its essence, what would you say are the key takeaways for us as readers, even centuries later?
Well, I think Parzival offers us this timeless message about the importance of self-discovery, the power of compassion, and the enduring human quest for meaning and purpose. It challenges us to look beyond surface appearances and consider the deeper implications of our actions.
It encourages us to embrace our own journeys with all their twists and turns, and to strive for a kind of knighthood that's rooted not just in strength and skill, but in empathy service and a connection to something larger than ourselves.
And I think one of the most important takeaways is that it's okay to doubt, to question, to struggle along the way. Those challenges, those moments of uncertainty are what ultimately shape us and allow us to grow.
Exactly. It's through confronting those difficult questions, those inner conflicts, that we find our own paths to the Grail, to whatever represents spiritual fulfillment in our own lives.
Wolfram's Parzival is truly a gift, a story that continues to inspire and challenge readers centuries after it was written. It invites us to embark on our own quests for meaning, for connection, and for that elusive yet eternally sought-after Grail.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Parzival. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through medieval chivalry, spiritual quests, and thought-provoking symbolism. Until next time, keep exploring those books and keep those bites flowing.